Hi guys, it's Jamie here. Welcome to tutorial 2 in our Stash Builder challenge. Today we're going to be looking at using portraits to make different types of page decorations. I have actually added some to some existing journal pages that are not actually in journals yet, and some existing ephemera, and I've kept some aside as small additions that can be added as and when you're doing a journal. You can see that all my portraits have frames. I have provided you a link to Dropbox, which has a free printable with these frames in it. I've also included how to download from Dropbox by either installing it onto your device or without installing it. You will find the link and the instructions in the video description. Just press the little down arrow where you start to read about this video, and that will reveal the whole description to you and various links, including, funnily enough, a link to my tip jar. You may have noticed that these videos are without adverts and therefore are free at source, as are the printables. If you wish to leave a tip, you will find my little coffee jar in the description too. Another way you can support my work here is to share this video with your friends, to like, subscribe and comment on the video. YouTube loves that sort of thing. I printed up 2 copies of the free printable, and as you can see now, I'm just fussy cutting out the frames. I have 2 different ways I fussy cut. One is to leave a small white border as though my printable is a sticker. The other is to actually cut just inside the outline. That way I avoid having white core paper showing through. Another way to neaten your fussy cut, in case you are worried about white paper showing, is to use the Distress Ink Vintage Photo or an ink of your choice and gently edge your fussy cut. This actually does work particularly well with the frames. I wouldn't say it works well on every single type of fussy cut. And here we have all the frames fussy cut out and inked around the edges. I do have some photograph printables bought from Etsy sellers, but obviously I can't share those with you. Therefore, I'm using my other method to find black and white portraits, which is secondhand books that are illustrative books. I think the 2 that I've got here are about the war. Here is my pile of portraits from a couple of secondhand books. Obviously, there are some quite famous figures in those portraits. All I'm doing at this stage is framing each figure and, if there is excessive paper, cutting it away. Now it's time to play with my scraps and my portraits to make ephemera for different journals. I'm currently making a double pocket, so with the largest piece of backing paper, I'm taking out quite a sizable notch, which will be 1 pocket. I'm then matting and layering a slightly smaller rectangle over that initial base pocket. With my second pocket, I've decided to do a top loading pocket. I'm using a slightly smaller circle to cut that notch. And now I have both my pockets in place, I'm just adding my portrait for the finishing touch. You can of course just store these pockets as ephemera, but as I do already have some spare journal pages that are dyed, I thought I might as well add it into place now. While I'm not going to take you through every design idea, I am aware that you will have different shapes and styles of scraps, so I will cover a few. On this design, I'm cutting a simple banner or flag, like you would get in a portrait gallery, to hang pictures one above the other. And this time I have decided to ink the edges of both the flag and also the backing paper. Again, I'm using Vintage Photo. Now I'm simply putting this portrait page together by putting our flag or banner down the centre of the backing piece and lining up the portraits one on top of the other. Again, I have decided to add this straight to a page of journal paper so that this will be ready to go. Here I have a really thin piece of scrap paper, so what I've decided to do is make a page edge with this. With this type of decoration, while you are adding detail to the journal page, you are also leaving plenty of journal space. Now I'm measuring up a scrap piece to be a belly band for a journal page and adding the framed portrait to the centre of the belly band. As you can see, decorations for pages do not have to be overly complex to add pretty detail. Another idea for you is to add some hinging to 3 sides of a pocket to give it some depth. My hinging for this pocket are simply scraps of paper that are quite narrow and then folded in half, with one side being attached to the pocket and the free side will be attached to the journal page. Here I've attached a portrait to a background piece of paper, and I am going to do a simple tuck spot, which means gluing along 2 sides, so that when that's attached and dried, you have 2 sides free, which you can tuck some paper or a journal card into. I'm just quickly reviewing what I've made so far so that I have some ideas for more ephemera or stash building. I'm now going to make a simple page cluster, which is different pieces of torn scrap paper that I'm edging in vintage photo and then creating a small collage with. Now I've built my small cluster, I'm just looking at how I want to add my photo, and I've decided to do it at a quirky angle and add my cluster to the top right hand corner of an existing journal page. Here I'm adding a piece of folded scrap paper to a folded piece of old book page, making a double fold decoration. To finish that off, I'm simply adding one of the framed portraits. I found a book page that had already been folded into a hinge pocket and stained with some Victorian velvet, and I decided to use some more scraps to build a clustery effect background onto that book page pocket. Again, I go for a quirky angle with the portrait. Here's what I've made in this stash building exercise: a double portrait flag, a page with a big portrait decoration, a tag, a library card where I added one of the framed portraits. Sometimes I've simply backed the portraits with bits of scraps of paper so they can be added to journal pages, or done full collages. More tags, more page borders. You've already seen that one being made because that was the book page pocket. Here's our double sort of flip that could be added to a journal page. You've already seen a lot of these being made. This portrait flips up for a little journal space. Here's the cluster. The tuck spot, I've put something in there so you can see how that works. I've also added bits and pieces to the different pockets that we made. So again, you can see how they hold tags and journal cards. And here's the belly band. I hope you enjoyed some of the ideas in this short video. Don't forget to share anything that you make in our Facebook Cafe group. The link is in the description, as is the link to your downloads and further information.